Okay. As I said, first a bit in Swedish and then I
Sure.
come back to English.
Sure.
Hej och välkomna till Konkret samtal med mig, Ehsan Norouzi, som idag har med mig en gäst som pratar bättre engelska än vad han gör svenska. So let's switch to English since I know every Swede speaks absolutely excellent English. Before we get started, let's get the holy trinity of internet out of the way. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy this conversation, if you find value in these conversations. Okay, with me today I have Dr. Pascal Lottaz, who is an associate professor at Kyoto University, where he investigates neutrality in international relations and also directs the research network neutralitystudies.com. He is an author and he has written books like Sweden, Japan, and the Long Second World War, Neutral Beyond the Cold, Neutral States and the Post-Cold War International System, and Notions of Neutralities. And also I got this off one of his pages, a description of his what he means with neutrality. The study of neutrality as an academic subject in the field of history and the social sciences is concerned with the politics, laws, ethics, economics, norms, and other social aspects of states and international actors that attempt to maintain friendly or impartial relations with other states who are or might become parties to international conflict. Also worth mentioning here is that Neutrality Studies is a YouTube channel, and it's a major channel in its niche. If Neutrality Studies was a printed publication, its 269,000 subscribers would place it in the same league as some of the most influential legacy media titles in the world. For example, Neutrality Studies now has a reach of an audience in the order of a solid regional newspaper like the Boston Globe or the Chicago Tribune. But it's better. And I don't think, I mean, it's better because I think it's better. It's better because the quality of attention such niche channels get is superior than the quality of attention that generalists generate. Now it's the opposite of doom scrolling, where you watch something, but a minute afterwards you can't repeat it because the quality of attention has been so low. The topic we're going to talk about today is freedom of speech and censorship in the modern media landscape, and the context is this past Sunday, on the 11th of January 2026, you got canceled on YouTube, and it took about a day to sort it out. But for that day, everything was up in the air and nobody knew where it ultimately would land. Dr. Pascal Lottaz, welcome to the program, and please tell us what happened.
Well, thank you very much, Ehsan, for the kind invitation, and thank you very much for that introduction. I mean, I've never looked at it that way, so you just made my day, and you inflated my ego, which
well, you did the work,
So what happened basically was that after 4 years of serious work on this platform, I mean YouTube, of course, I've had this channel, and I started doing what I've been doing coincidentally around January, February 2022, right before the war, I mean the full-scale war between Russia and Ukraine. I started it with an interview of Ambassador Jack Matlock, the last US ambassador to the Soviet Union, and coincidentally it was in that time frame, because for the first time I wanted to do a one-on-one interview. Before that, I used my channel basically to put academic webinars and so on there, and it was basically just a place to park videos. And then it became a place that I started using seriously, and I build up this channel. And then on Sunday morning, I wake up at it was like 8 a.m. I reach for my phone and just looking at messages, and then an email comes in from Google, from YouTube, saying that your channel has been terminated because it is infringing on their spam and deceptive practices policy. And I was looking at it and just like thinking like, okay, I always knew that the YouTube channel is really just a checkbox in a very large Google spreadsheet. And if you remove the checkbox, the channel's gone. I mean, that has been the experience of others. That's just what it is. YouTube, Google can remove any channel at any point in time for any kind of reason. They have full control. They have full rights. We have zero rights, zero control. I knew that threat was there, but still, when that happened, I dreaded it. So I tried to open my app to see and my YouTube Studio to see if I can still access it. And lo and behold, no, I cannot. I get an error message saying like, you've been terminated. But fear not, because you have the right to appeal. They even call it an appeal. And they give you a little button, a little blue button, say appeal now. You click on the button, you get a little text box. It's like, so tell us why we are wrong. I told them, hello, I don't spam. I'm a serious channel. I do geopolitical analysis. I've been on the platform for 4 years. Please look at the videos. You will see that this is not spam. And it's not deceptive. I'm not trying to trick anyone or to do any kind of fraud. Please reinstate me and send off. And 2 hours later, I get an email back saying like, your appeal has been rejected. We found that you indeed do infringe upon spam and deceptive practices. There's nothing we can do. And the email is clearly a template. It's a template email. There's no name, nobody to talk to. It's just an automatism. And that's the moment when I realized I realized I had a problem at 8 a.m. I realized that I had a big problem at 10 a.m. Because that was the last, you get one shot at appealing, and that's it. I don't know if a human ever looked at my channel or not. The thing that I understand now is that I came into YouTube's spam filter. So YouTube terminates channels not just because they don't like them, but YouTube has a problem, which is it is a very, very, very large platform. There's 2.5 billion monthly users. That is a third of the global population. A third of everybody on this planet uses YouTube. And they also have a lot of creators. I mean, you are very flattering telling me that I'm big in my niche, but there is more than 100,000 creators who are bigger than 100,000 subscribers. The platform is just massive. And there's also, since you can make money on this platform with ads and whatnot, there's an incentive for people to use the platform and just like put out junk and whatnot, and you can make money with that, right? And YouTube needs some form of spam filter. They need policies. I understand that. The problem is that I obviously was caught in that spam filter, and then this automation decided that I was spam and buy and gone. And what happened after that is that there is a creator support. Actually, if you need to go, you need to search it separately, but you can find it and you can fill in a form, and then you can actually chat to a support staff. Until this day, I don't know if the support staff is a human or was an AI. I kind of think it was a human because the periods between replies were of different lengths, and the person actually thought about stuff and said, please wait, please hold, and I'll do this, and maybe I'll have to escalate, tell me more about this and that. I mean, it seemed a human interaction, but unfortunately we are living in 2026 where that is not a guarantee anymore.
That's a different podcast episode. I would love to make that podcast episode also, but yes.
But then that person promised to escalate. And in the meantime, they said they will get back to me via mail. And then I also I was contacted by different people who told me about their solidarity, which really, really helped, because I was obviously very saddened at this news and at the threat that this would be gone. Then the good news is that at around 10 p.m., no, midnight, and a few minutes before midnight, I get an email saying like, "Oh, we the same template actually, but saying like we determined that your channel does not violate our policies and has been reinstated, and it was reactivated, and there I was again, and everything was as it was before." So it was not terminated in the sense of deleted. It was really the checkbox that was removed, and once the checkbox was back on, I was online and going again. And I got then the next day I got an email from that support staff. If it again, I suppose it was a human. I still think that person was a human, saying like, "Oh, by the way, we are closing the ticket because we reinstated your channel. So I hope this helps. Sorry it took so long." So I still can't tell you what exactly it is that happened there in the background. The most benign interpretation is that I got caught in a spam filter, and yeah, it was bad luck. In a
So,
less benign interpretation is that there's several less benign interpretation. One is somebody said that guy needs to be shut down. The other kind of in between less benign interpretation is that some of my videos might have reached the wrong audience and they clicked on "this is spam" because they don't like what I said. And then that triggered the spam filter, or that somebody tried to do an attack, of like
so yeah, yeah.
flagging my content as spam in order to trigger the spam filter.
It's yeah, and this is why this conversation is very important, because against the backdrop of your work on EU sanctions against Jacques Bod, Nathalie Yamb, Hussein Dogru, and others, I thought it was censorship. That was my first thought when I reached out to you. Once I saw your second video where you explained it was backup and the process and everything, I still thought it was censorship, but not necessarily by YouTube and Google, meaning exactly the type of attack you described, that people that see this content, that subscribe to a different narrative, can't stand this content and report it as spam. And once you reach those numbers, I mean, it's correct. YouTube is 2.5 billion users. It's the greatest media platform in our time right now, which
Yeah.
is a problem when you put that side by side with how the machine is being ran, what right its content creators have, what role this machine plays in the great scene of life that we're now seeing. Did you ever think it was censorship because of the content you create and the narratives you help bring to light?
No, I didn't think so, but my main reason is that I was accused of spam and deceptive practices. I mean, there's other things a channel can be accused of for termination. A channel can get strikes for abusive language or whatnot.
Yeah,
And then
breaking content policy.
breaking the policy, and after 3 strikes, you're out. And there's other policies, right, that I could be accused of. I could be accused of stealing content. I could be accused of breach of their terms, and those would make more sense. The spam filter to me makes no sense. And on the other hand, what does make sense is that within the last 6 months, we really have seen an explosion of malicious content on YouTube, of channels pretending to be other people. There was a channel that pretended to be Alexander Mercury's. There's a channel
Yes,
that was
yes.
pretending to be Jeffrey Sachs. And, it took
Yanis.
them. Yanis Varoufakis, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are real spam channels out there. There's real deception. There's real make believe that people said stuff that they never said. So it makes total sense to me that YouTube in the last couple of months had to significantly increased the way that its spam filter works. So I am still of the opinion that because of that, I am rather a collateral damage of this IT problem. If it was something else, there's other things that YouTube can do in order to censor people. One thing, for instance, that happened to a very high-profile person, Russell Brand, the British
Actor,
actor and
comedian.
YouTuber. He got accused of sexual abuse, of having sexually abused women in his past, and that was blown up by legacy media in the UK. And then YouTube decided, because they got wind of that they demonetize him. They didn't censor him, they demonetized him, and that's a political decision. So these kind of decisions, those things, I think, are political censorship approaches. Whereas the spam thing, in my case, I am still inclined to judge that it was a mistake, but a mistake that when it happens and I don't get out of it, still results in the same
Yeah, but
thing.
for me, it's let's say, for the sake of argument, let's say that the powers that be in the big tech company Alphabet that owns Google and YouTube decide that we don't want Dr. Lottaz. We can't have him spewing his nonsense to this audience. We're going to censor him. Let's say that that's the decision that's taken. Do you really expect them to write that to you in those terms, or just send you a generic, no, we're closing you down because of whatever?
The thing is, there is the potential danger to them that somebody takes legal action, right? That is an avenue that's open to me, but it would be a very difficult and a very tough one, and most people don't do it, right? But it would be easier if it was a censorship approach. It would, to me, make more sense that they would accuse me of infringing on some policy, give me a first strike, give me a second strike, and out. Therefore, then having kind of a paper record, and that's also like why they make that part of the system, right? Of course, if you're a Google CEO, a YouTube high up, then I suppose you can just ring up somebody and say, like, take that channel down now, make it spam, period, and end of discussion. I think
Well,
that power probably
that
exists.
decision might be influenced by, for instance, the EU, who has
Yeah,
decided to sanction people because of what they say and
that is
their
true.
opinions, and with total disregard to the law.
Yes, and we know
And
from the Twitter
this is the
files.
context.
We know from the Twitter files from a year and a half ago, that in the case of Twitter, of X, actually the US government did directly influence and flag content that they wanted deleted. So we know that this happened before. So it's not unthinkable that it's happening right now, and that it's also happening with YouTube. So it's I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know. The thing is, interviewing Jacques Beau and Nathalie Yamb, Hussein Dogru, is not the worst thing I did in terms of all the things. Like on my channel, I have videos about Gaza. I have videos about Ukraine. I have very outspoken people on the channel who there's other reasons to censor me. It's like, in my view, Jacques Beau, Nathalie Yamb, if anything, the EU will not call YouTube and tell them, like, please just shut him down. The EU will sanction me. That would make much more sense, because they use the big hammer. They don't use the small hammer. They've proven that now with all of these people. They like using the big hammer. So in a sense, I would believe that
Well,
that's why I believe it was a glitch.
this is interesting for me because I am not academically educated, but I have spent my professional adult career within communications, and I've made observations, but not research. Just let me put that out there. What I see when I see sanctions against Hussein Dogru, Nathalie Yamb, Jacques Beau, and the like, and the more I learn, the clearer it becomes to me that it's not about Jackpot, Nataliam, and Hussein Doklu. What I see parallel with this is a sphere of podcasters and
Yeah.
uh, people that drive conversations, and a sphere outside of the usual channels and the usual controls. And they're trying to get to these people. But would they use the big hammer on somebody like you, who is doing essentially journalistic work? It would have a different effect than doing it on the people that are guests in this sphere, the authorities that this sphere turn to get answers.
Yeah.
Am I being paranoid, or is this something that
No,
you and your co-creators in this blogosphere talk about and feel?
no, you're being suspicious, and being suspicious is a good thing. I mean,
Okay.
but one thing is, we also need to be suspicious of our own suspicions in order to, reflexively
Mm,
ask, does it make sense? Because
mm,
there's also a danger to fall into paranoia, and that,
mm,
that might also be a goal of the people who
mm,
do that, right? Let's make them paranoid, and then they see ghosts everywhere. And that, actually, somebody who warned from that is Edward Snowden. He sent out in one of his blog posts, or one of his newsletters that he sent out a couple of months ago. He actually said, he warned that it's there's a danger that we overinterpret what is happening, and we read too much intention into it. That's not to say that there's zero intention, but that's to say that not everything might be connected to the thing that we're seeing as a threat, and we need to distinguish those. So I've seen that several times. I had a talk with another YouTuber a while ago, and he told me, look, I'm being shadow banned. And I said, why? And then he told me, look, I have proof. My videos, when I post them, the development is like rapid distribution, a lot,
mm,
rapid growth, and then curve, and then flatline. And he told me, look, that's because I'm being shadow banned, because otherwise it should keep growing. It's like, no, no, that's just how videos actually in the news and podcast sphere, that's just how they develop. We get watched a lot in the beginning, and then a little bit less, and then almost nothing. So
mm,
that's a very normal, the hockey stick curve is a very normal development for videos. All of my 99% of my videos do that. So, and this told me, look, he got too suspicious on what is going on, which is fair enough. I mean, we don't know. That's the thing. The fact that these algorithms and so on are not transparent must make us suspicious. But not everything that's happening is automatically connected to a malicious, malign kind of intention of censorship or whatever. Other things are, and it's really difficult to differentiate between these two. And whichever it is, it also hints at problems that should be solved. So in the case of my friend who misinterpreted the hockey puck as the hockey
stick.
stick as a uh,
Shadow ban.
as shadow banning, it hints at the fact that there should be more information. There should be more transparency about how the algorithms work. In my case, if I'm correct, and I was a glitch, and they increased the
Mm,
sensitivity, and I landed in there, and then got almost terminated. What this hints at is that there's a problem that we don't have enough human review in Google.
mm,
And again, Google, YouTube is highly profitable. They make billions and billions of US dollars a year in profit, not in revenue, in pure profit. How much would it take to allocate 10 goddamn million to open a proper support center? You can even open it in the Philippines or whatnot, but so that you have human review, and you train people, and you employ a couple of hundred people that then work with these 100,000 YouTubers. Yes, from the company's perspective, it's like a kind of a loss that you can do automatized,
mm,
and that's why they don't do it. But just think about how much money countries spend on visa immigration officers who just sit there and stamp our passports when we enter a country. I mean, at a certain size and a certain importance, an organization has to employ people in order to check other people. And the fact that Google and YouTube doesn't do that, that to me is the political problem that we face on this 2.5 billion user medium. So if my interpretation of what happened is correct, then I would suggest this kind of solution to the problem, to include more human review and more human interaction with an actual support center. If the interpretation of like censorship is correct, then we just must push for less censorship, and probably we should do both. It's just like what kind of approach to take. And I would like to tell Google and YouTube, please add more human review into your very inhuman processes, because they are very unsettling and dystopian.
And especially, it's like when you explained, when they communicate with you, it's not like you get a name. It's just YouTube support team. It could be robot, it could be human.
I must say, if you actually go to creator support and do the form and then do a chat, then they tell you your the chat support is Maya or Ray.
Okay.
But
so
I mean,
can you trust it?
Can you trust it? These are
well, you come into you touched on a couple of tangents that it's like I'm deviating from my script here, but so for me, listening to you explain this, the reality that there is a term called shadow banning, that there is consensus about what it means and why it's applied, hand in hand with the fear a lot of creators feel that I can't talk about this because it would hurt my career, basically. That constitutes a problem and a development in the wrong direction. At the same time, as you said, 2.5 billion people a year, a day, the world, a month, the world's largest media platform, and it's international. So if I have a channel here in Sweden, you are in Japan, we have the same rules that apply to all of us. In a sense, it's leveled the playing field for content creators and free speech to a part around the globe, which is development in a good direction.
Yes.
And you, with being very into this and having studied this, looking back over 10, 20 years, where is the development going? Are we having the positive development when it comes to censorship and free speech, or are we having a negative development, all in all?
We're having both. I mean, I would argue overall the situation today is better when it comes to the possibility of you and I to gain an audience and to circumvent the editors. We cannot circumvent everyone and everything. YouTube is still the middleman, but YouTube is in this sense not an editor like in a newspaper, where if you want to publish a letter or whatnot, it will be read by them and judged and then maybe shortened and whatnot, and then it will be put out. Or you need to be hired as a journalist, and you're then going through the whole process, inside the newspaper in order to get everything out. Right? So we've got, I would say it's better because we have that possibility. And I would say also the way that we discuss things like Gaza, the Ukraine war, hegemony of the United States, and so on, the way it shows that we have more possibilities of seeding alternative narratives, alternative interpretations of reality, which is very, very important, because the worst thing is if you have a monopoly of the interpretation of reality concentrated in a very small group of people, right? And this is one of the negative things that happened, for instance, in the United States in the 1990s, that basically the laws were changed that then allowed a few large conglomerates to suck up all of these newspaper and news stations and basically also unify the messaging. I mean, you could see how in the 60s and 70s you had in the United States more variety of voices and so on, and also in Europe you had more variety. In Europe, I think the processes that led to this unification of narrative is a slightly different process, but still we went through that process. At the same time, the internet then allowed us to spread out, and what we are seeing at the moment is the Wild West days of the internet are over. We have a more regulated internet. We have different internets. The one that you and I access, basically in the West, the one that Chinese citizens access in China, the spreading of information and discussion clubs across bubbles within the internet. Reddit is its own sub-universe. YouTube is a sub-universe, a very, very big one. And
each with its own culture.
Each with its own culture, with its rules, with its possibilities of engagement. Twitter is one, and so on. So that kind of compartmentalization is happening. At the same time, it structures debate, right? So that's not a bad thing. On YouTube is a wonderful tool for long form video. We can upload a video, a 1, 2, 3 hour podcast, and there will be people who will watch it, and YouTube will find them for you. And that's one of the services they offer, and that's a huge service, right? Whereas on TikTok and so on, you have all of this short-term stuff, which, yes, doom scrolling, I'm not a fan of it, but some people are really, really into that, and it's an art form in and of itself, and I wouldn't want to talk trash about it. People figured out how to convey entire dinner recipes within 60 seconds. It's like, wow.
No, the content creators that do short form are amazing, because the shorter it has to be, the more you have to think and work off camera. This is very easy format for you and me.
Yeah,
this
and
is long form, not because it's the best form, it's because it's the easiest for us to make.
Yeah, because it allows us to do something in our niche with what we want. And let's not underestimate also just not just the value, but the importance of entertainment. A lot of people forget that entertainment is not just there to numb you. Entertainment is there to keep you from going sane. The reason airlines put entertainment into airplanes is so that people don't get stupid ideas and start rioting and whatnot. And one of the worst forms of punishment, the worst, is solitary confinement. And it's not because you are alone, it's because you're bored. Our brain needs distraction because we are made in a way. And if we don't get that, it hurts us physically. We physically get sick if we don't have it. So, I mean, entertainment is an important service. I would never want to down talk short form things. The question is what? Well, let's put that aside. Point being, the internet at the moment is developing, I think, into fragments, relatively large fragments that they help filter us. They help us in one way, but they create their own new problems. So the natural thing to do is to think about how to solve the problems. and develop it further. And I hope we can, because some things are up to the platforms, but some things are up to social interaction. If we creators, 100,000 creators above 100,000 subscribers, if we just take that and just take the threat, then Google will continue. If we complain about it, and if we try to communicate, and if we try to propose new mechanisms, and we go and we talk at conferences and whatnot, then maybe over time you get a change in the system in order to make it more usable. Maybe I'm just being idealistic, but
no, but because I think you wrote some. The problem is there's many sides to it. I am born in Iran, lived in Sweden since I was 3, so I am a Swede for all intents and purposes. And in Sweden, we have consensus culture, which essentially means when it's no consensus, people are a little uncomfortable. It's not a legal framework. It's not a technical structure. It still creates censorship on its own. In Iran, we have the opposite of consensus culture, where you have two Iranians, you have at least three opinions. Because if we all agreed, we have nothing to talk about. It's still culture. There you also have the authorities coming down on you hard if your opinions deviate too much from their opinions. And there's a real risk involved with having opinions. And then we have the internet, which is its own world, as you explained, with its own cultures and rules and regulations. So all in all, how do we move to a better place? Because looking around, it doesn't look like we're moving towards a better place when it comes to freedom of speech. In the EU, we have a disregard for our those who don't agree with us, even to the point where a little clique of commissioners have made decisions outside of how legal people interpret the law, and are fine with it. They don't see a problem with it. In America, we see their problems, and at the same time, they want to bomb the rest of the world because they don't have freedom of speech and democracy.
They want to bomb Iran for freedom of speech and democracy. It's like
Yeah.
it's insane. And they bombed Iraq for illusionary weapons of mass destruction. I mean, the one of the main problems is that the West, in general, and the United States in particular, are just highly violent cultures, highly violent. And while gaslighting themselves into saying like we're peace loving and whatnot, but we must, I mean, we must again recognize.
Yeah, but without going into the politics, looking at the media of it,
Yeah, okay.
what can we do? It's how can
I
we
mean,
ensure that media and speech remains free and open?
so I mean, on the one hand, always emphasize the principles. Free speech. Speech must be free. The protection of the individual, freedom of conscience, freedom of religion. Those are the philosophical fundaments. So we must repeat them at nauseum because they are that important, and they are also one of our weapons, right? I mean, nobody in their right mind in Western societies will say like, no, I'm against freedom of speech. They will use other terms. They will say like, freedom of speech, yes, but not everything. And well, if we look at the historical development, freedom of speech was never absolute. There were always some limits, like when it comes to insults, when it comes to slander, and so on. So we have that, but those we have codified them over many years, hundreds of years, and we actually have developed a good system. So
But
what we don't
they're
have is a
irrelevant now.
similar system on the platforms. So what we need to do is to say that we want to emulate the legal system we have in the social realm in the digital realm. So where we don't have just a big brother that decides everything, but that we have defined processes and that we have recourse to legal action. That's what the platforms are trying to switch off, and we need to rally for that. We need to pick up the flags and go to the street and say like, this is what we want. On by the street, it can be a digital street, right? And we need to work on that as little people, to say like, we want to get to a better future. I mean, the future right now is not horrible, it's not bad, but it must be better, even better in the future. I mean, we must be protected. Our rights online must be protected.
The problem I'm having, Pascal, is it's all these rules that we agree upon. They're all out the window when people stop following the rules. And
Yes.
you and me, we are in the space of media making content, yeah? And this affects us, and we're worried, but we can have this conversation.
Yes.
I'm thinking to myself, people that are in the legal field, watching the rules get shoved out the window, how are their conversations going? Are they worried? Are they thinking about what type of rules do we need to put in when the old rules no longer apply? And how do we enforce such rules?
No, I
Do you
mean,
have those conversations?
yeah. There's no other way but social struggle. It is I mean, I don't think aliens will appear and solve our problems. I don't think God will snap its finger and solve our problems. We are the latest itineration of a very long and very old struggle. The right to print stuff as we wish and not as the king wishes is an old one. And they had that problem 400 years ago. We're having the problem now. And we're having the problem in new facets, but they are still fundamentally the same problem. So in a sense, we're in very good company. Century old company. I mean, Socrates was condemned to death over the stuff he said, and when he had his process against him, when the judges, 400 judges, and gathered and told him, like, look, you're either gonna apologize and leave, or we're going to kill you. What kind of punishment do you want? Socrates said, for all of my services, I think the punishment should be getting a meal at the best restaurant in town. And then they condemned him to death and he died for it. Because he said no. And, the charges against Socrates were corruption of the youth. And if you look at what the
It
European
never
Union
changes.
accuses Jacques Paul, is like, not corruption of the youth, but legal propaganda. You're corrupting society.
Yeah,
It's the same goddamn problem.
yeah,
Over
it is.
2,400 years. It's still not gone, but it's not gone because it's part of the way society works. So what we need to do is to accept that we have the problem and then keep struggling and say, like, yeah, I'm in good company together with Socrates and a lot of other people, and we just have to push currently, because what else can we do? It's either give up and leave town or push back until you can't.
Finally, before we round up this conversation, Dr. Lottaz, 856 episodes, I think, is on Neutrality Studies. You've interviewed quite a lot of people, and I'm pushing a lot of my questions into this one final question, because I was going to say, are there any politicians that are working for this, or is it another case of a lot of politicians but the same policy?
What do you? I don't understand the question. Like, a lot of politicians.
It's yeah, but I want to make it wider than just politicians in this struggle to ensure our freedoms and our freedom of speech, as well as our right to listen. I want to hear what some people have to say. I believe it's my right to hear what they have to say. I don't want anybody interfere in my process of hearing what they have to say. Are there anybody we should keep an extra eye on?
There are people also in the political sphere who are on board of this. I mean, I would say in Germany, like the Sarah Wagenknecht and her party, the left in general, defend this. Within the parties, you find people who will stand up for this. We found it. We find it even within the political right. There is people in the U.S. in the Republican right who are very pro free speech. I mean, Tucker Carlson, right? And Tucker Carlson then constantly has fights with the censorship right that say, like, free speech for me, but not for thee, right? And we have them left and right. So I don't think the battle is lost or anything. And that's why I emphasize principles. One of the strongest defenses for free speech in the United States is actually the Constitution, because they wrote it in there, and we in Europe, we don't have it on that level ingrained into a fundamental kind of a way as they have, and that's a good thing. And for all of my criticism of the United States, the way that they treat their constitution and the value that they give to that piece of paper is quite admirable, and maybe we can learn from that. And that's not to say that the United States, that we should emulate the United States,
No, but
some things work.
yeah, we should
Sometimes.
learn where we find good examples.
And then pick and choose, right? And try to reinforce these fundamental rights. That's also why I'm a great defender of human rights. I'm a great defender of the idea of international law. And people can always say, oh, but it doesn't work. Oh, and somebody infringed on it. It doesn't work. Well, if somebody steals your car, that's not proof that the nation state doesn't work. That's just proof that somebody stole your car and is a criminal. So we are not at the end of history. We are in the middle of it, right? So we just have to also decide what kind of ideals we would want to strive towards, and then work on that. And we're not at the end, and we're going to be long gone before we're at the end. But that's even more a reason to say, like, let's try, because we're not in a bad place. Again, the fact that we can have this discussion, and that at least for now it's possible, is a good thing. And I do hope that we can maintain it, right, at least, and expand, therefore continue the analysis and the right to speak and the right to hear. So I second what you said. It's a very important one.
Yeah, I think it's also to connect back to we have to check ourselves for our own biases. On
Yes.
one hand, is it that the freedom of speech is going down, or is it that my standards for freedom of speech are going up? And I think if it's the latter, we're in a very good place, and I hope it's the latter, and I am ready to work for the latter. So
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Thank you for being on my program, and I will keep watching your shows on YouTube. Please check out Dr. Pascal's work on Neutrality Studies on YouTube. Great channel, great interviews, and also Google Dr. Pascal, and you will find his books, and neutralitystudies.com. Yes, yes. Interesting. The Sweden-Japan link. I've lived in this country for 40 years. I've studied some Second World War. I never given it a thought until I read that title. It's like, yeah, of course they should be some history.
And I admire the Swedes. I just want to say, because of your Swedish audience, like, the Swedes have a very, very pragmatic side to them, and I like that so much about them. And the way, the story of Sweden and Japan in the Second World War is fascinating in and of itself. I have great hopes in Sweden. I'm very saddened that it gave up its neutrality, but it will. My prediction is it will come back.
Yeah, I'm not too worried, because I tell you this, Dr. Pascal, I've lived in this country for 40 years, and there's one thing that defines the Swedes even more than they have consensus culture, or we have consensus culture, and that is Swedes are problem solvers. They chafe under problems. They cannot walk away of it. They experience a problem, their brain goes into this problem solving mode. And I think that pragmatism that you explain has its roots in that very, very Swedish cultural phenomenon of being a country of problem solvers. It's like, we have this problem in front of us, let's solve it and move on to the next problem. And you
In that
get
case, the question is how to find the right problem to solve.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yes, yes. Nobody has mastered it yet, unfortunately. It's a process, but it's a good society to be a part of. It's problem solved good enough for now, and once we elevate our standards, we get back to it and try to solve it again.
Good.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's see. And that is the let's see here. There, yeah, and like that. Okay,